In our headlines on this Friday, October 31st, here in South Korea. The APEC leaders meeting starts earlier this morning for 2 days of policy recommendation discussions on largely digital transformation and demographic transition amid hopes for a Gyeongju declaration tomorrow. Meanwhile, on the margins of the main multilateral meeting, President Kim Hea Kyung continues to sit down separately with his APEC counterparts, including the leaders of the UAE, the Philippines, and Chile today. And on the business front, the president seeks talks with members of the APEC Business Advisory Council and the head of Nvidia to address prospects of productive partnership. Hello and welcome to our evening newscast for this Friday, October 31st. I'm Min San-hee. Our special news format continues tonight as well as Arirang News shares with you team coverage of South Korea's hosting of this year's APEC Forum. Now, that being said, I turn now to our studio setup in the historic city of Gyeongju, where my colleague Kim Dami is standing by. Dami, welcome back.
Hello, Sunny. Here in Gyeongju, the city has been the most vibrant and busiest today during this APEC period, with the official APEC leaders meeting in full swing under tight security across the neighborhood. But we start with a recap of the APEC leaders meeting that kicked off today on Friday with cooperation and connectivity front and center. Let's go over to our President Office correspondent Yoon Jung-min at the International Media Center. Jung-min, what were the key takeaways from the first session?
Tammy, the first APEC session began under the theme of towards a more connected, resilient region and beyond to seek ways to promote and enhance trade and investment. As host, President Lee Jae-myung stressed the need for global solidarity and cooperation in the face of increasing global protectionism, where Korea hopes to play a role as a bridge along the way.
우리 모두는 국제 질서가 격변하는 중대한 변곡점 위에 서 있습니다. 협력과 연대만이 우리를 더 나은 미래로 이끄는 확실한 해답입니다.
He underscored the Hwabaek spirit of harmony and coexistence, originating from the ancient Silla kingdom, which used to be based in Gyeongju. We are expecting the Gyeongju Declaration tomorrow on the final day of the two-day session. Present were the leaders of 21 APEC members, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva and Crown Prince Khalid of the UAE also joined the session as special guests. U.S. President Donald Trump returned home early, and his Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent filled in for him.
Right. Now, ahead of the session, President Lee Jae-myung greeted the leaders one by one this morning, and that's where he met Chinese President Xi Jinping for the first time, right, Jung-min?
That's right, Tammy. So the South Korean leader gave a warm welcome to each and every guest upon arrival at the summit venue. And I should note that security and traffic control is just very tight here. Chinese President Xi was the last guest to arrive at the venue, and he met President Lee for the first time, shaking hands and taking a photo. Now, you just saw that the Chinese leader is visiting Korea for the first time in 11 years, and he is set to meet his South Korean counterpart one-on-one tomorrow. The leaders will address denuclearization of the Korean peninsula and peace efforts, as well as ways to resolve issues related to people's livelihoods in both countries. During the first APEC session, which was held behind closed doors, Xi called for joint efforts to safeguard the multilateral trading system and build an open regional economic environment, according to a Chinese report. Back to you, Dami.
All right, Jung-min, thanks for that coverage. That was our Yoon Jung-min live from the International Media Center. And following his summit talks with U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping this week, President Lee Jae-myung today bonded with the leaders of the UAE, the Philippines and Chile. Our Kim Hea Kyung has the story.
President Lee Jae-myung held several summits on Friday, bonding ties with other leaders of APEC members. During the summit with the Philippines, President Lee underlined how this year marks the first anniversary of establishing a strategic partnership between the two and agreed to continue working closely for more cooperation.
아주 많은 세월 동안 한국과 필리핀이 우방 국가로서 서로 지원하고 협력해 왔지만 오늘 우리 대통령님 방문을 계기로 앞으로 더 높은 단계의 밀도 있는 협력 관계가 맺어지기를 기대합니다.
We have already reached several milestones, one of which was the bilateral free trade agreement and also our cooperations in areas of defense and security, amongst other key areas of mutual interest.
While welcoming President Gabriel Boric Font's first visit to Korea, President Lee noted that Chile has established itself as a key partner in the region.
최초로 대한민국을 승인한다든지 또 최초로 FTA를 체결한다든지 어떤 여러 면에서 대한민국과 특별한 관계를 맺고 있습니다.
In the early 2000s, we signed an FTA. I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize that Chile is strongly committed to improving the FTA with Korea.
To this suggestion, President Lee proposed exploring mutually beneficial solutions in FTA improvement talks. Regarding talks on cooperation in critical minerals and renewable energy, the two agreed that combining Korea's manufacturing technology with Chile's abundant energy and mineral resources could create great synergy. These summits were after President Lee met with Crown Prince Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan of Abu Dhabi earlier in the morning. Referring to the UAE as the only country in the Middle East that maintains a special strategic partnership with the Republic of Korea, President Lee underlined how the two countries hold great potential in cultural cooperation and expressed hopes for the UAE to play a significant role in helping to promote the spread of K-culture, which is currently gaining great popularity across the Middle East. The Crown Prince underlined how the UAE's relationship with South Korea is a special and important one, saying what makes it special is that it is built on trust. Pointing out that strengthening ties and cooperation among Asian nations is also a priority for the UAE, he invited Lee to visit Abu Dhabi in November. Kim Hea Kyung, Arirang News.
Now, the highlight of this year's APEC will be the Gyeongju Declaration, and that's only if the APEC member leaders decide to settle on like-minded goals and plans going forward. Will APEC 2025 Korea realize the Gyeongju Declaration? For answers, we've invited Professor Andrew Millard. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here again.
And also joining on my left is Professor Song Soo-young. Welcome, Professor Song.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Professor Song, how does the adoption of a declaration work in this case for APEC?
I think the declaration is maybe some people believe to put some weight, importance to the declaration, but so far, because of the United States and the conflict with China, consequently, the declaration itself is not as important as what it used to be. For example, in 2024 Machu Picchu Declaration, with the help with the Joe Biden's previous U.S. president's attendance makes some punctuation and put more importance to the declaration, but not now. But still, I believe that as long as the member states can come together and they have some unified or some agreed upon the opinions about the meaning of APEC 2025, I think it has some important implication for the further future global trade.
Like you mentioned, so many things have changed for the past few years in terms of international ties and relations. And then, Professor Miller, why are we obsessing so much over this Gyeongju Declaration?
So the declaration, it's a very symbolic document. So every summit, every bilateral meeting, they always end the summit with either a declaration or at least an official statement. So what these declarations, what these statements do, basically they just summarize what has been discussed by the members over the past 2 days. And what agreements they've come up with, how they're going to resolve some of the issues that have been discussed. So basically, it's a kind of a guideline for the future where they've shown commitment to cooperate together. Now, for APEC, since its initiation in 1989, it's only been 2 times that there's been no declaration. 2018 was the first when we had issues between China and the US.
Right.
And the second time was 2019, which was due to Chile having to cancel the APEC meeting due to civil unrest. So it's a very important document, but as Professor Song said, maybe it's also quite just a symbol. There's no real meaning behind it.
Well, they have to come up with at least a penciled down document, right, to end such a big event.
Exactly.
And then, Professor Song, why do you think the leaders are taking so much time to come to the middle ground? What are they struggling with?
Actually, even though we have the APEC 2025 main theme is building sustainable tomorrow, and also bridge and build business and beyond. Maybe considering those themes, and then the prospect of world economy. So, for example, under the WTO, is based upon the rules-based multilateral trade principle, but it has been just broken because of the conflict between U.S. and China, particularly as Professor Billard mentioned, that 2018 and 19, the 2 times no declaration was agreed upon the member states. So it signals, it is very symbolic, but the declaration is that some kind of they already made some agreement among the member states and the participating countries. So as a result, they would like to get some agreeable issues and further guideline for the future. So I think current situation is going to be, it is abbreviated as a terminology of plurilateralism, which means some regions get together and foster some free trade among the regional unit. So that is like some kind of monopolistic competition and independent of each other. So this is a kind of a fractional economy is going to take the shape of the future trade. Therefore, still we need cooperation, coordination is important, but because of the 2 superpowers, conflict is inevitable, I think, because even though current situation is just a truce. So to that regard, I expect the development of the world international trade is going to be a little bit divided into several chunks of some free trade area.
Well, good news is that we're just into day 1 of the 2-day APEC leaders meeting. Hopefully, we'll be able to see the declaration come out tomorrow. But if we do, Professor Millard, what will the declaration really entail, Gyeongju Declaration?
So there's going to involve several different issues. It's going to be the main issues facing the region right now. Of course, the main one is trade. So we all know the tariffs have been going up. It's going on for a long time. And as Professor Song said, we want to go back, especially the other countries. China, President Lee in Korea has repeatedly mentioned this push for multilateralism, back to the rules-based trade system. So we're going to see a focus on that. We're also going to see a lot of focus on the digital economy, which again is something that President Lee has been focusing on, pushing the AI agenda, how that will be involved in the economic system as we move forward. Sustainability and inclusivity, this covers quite a few areas. So a big topic right now is obviously climate change, bringing in a lot of renewable energies, green energy. The problem with that right now is that it's very costly. So they'll want to push ahead with bringing in stable energy, green energy, but also at affordable prices, which again requires a lot of economic cooperation between the members. And we also have women's empowerment. So we have demographic changes, that will be part of the issue. And the final one, I think, will be supply chain management, resilience. We've seen COVID-19, various financial crises that have really hindered the supply chain. So I think those are the main issues that will be in the declaration.
You know, the world is burdened with so much work and challenges. Now, you mentioned cooperation on AI, energy, demographic shifts, but Professor Song, what do you think needs to be absolutely included in this Gyeongju Declaration, if you have to pick one?
If I would like to focus on very short term, because Professor Millard has mentioned several agendas, very important and critical, but not imminent. So the reason is it is like environment and other women empowerment and other several issues are a little bit long term. So to that regard, I would like to say, because every country, even China and South Korea, always have some bilateral trade. Even Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, for example, Malaysia is a 19% tariff. Vietnam is 20%. So there is some differentiation still exists, which means that each country has a different trade agreement between each country and the US. So this is clearly the bilateral, a separate way of doing international trade. Then the remaining countries and the remaining countries must have their own way to foster some free trade. That's what I said, the plurilateralism is the multilateral. It cannot be sustained because the US absolutely rejected. Given that China cannot, but India, Brazil cannot but choose not multilateralism, but they have their own way to foster international free trade.
Professor, you've raised a very interesting point because U.S. President Donald Trump is not here anymore. He's already back at home. But wouldn't that make the Gyeongju Declaration not a complete one, I'm afraid to say?
So I think there's been a lot of attention put on Donald Trump coming to Korea.
Especially this APEC.
What we need to focus on is America being president, not just Donald Trump.
Okay.
So we could also say that Vladimir Putin, he's not here. Representing Russia.
That's true.
So that would be another example. So it doesn't really matter that Donald Trump himself is not here in terms of the declaration. So based on the APEC rules, if the leader is not here, it then goes down to the vice president, or if not the vice president, then down to the Treasury Secretary. So for America, this means that Scott Bessent should be here to sign any declaration on behalf of the US president. What it does mean, maybe it's a little bit of a negative image for Donald Trump that he hasn't stayed for the whole APEC summit. So I know in Asia that's quite important that you do stay and you do participate. So it could be an image wise there. But I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages. The advantages, basically this is an opportunity for the other members of APEC in the region, like we said, who want to focus on multilateralism, want to have this free trade, rules-based system, without Donald Trump sort of overshadowing them. Maybe this is an opportunity for them to come back. But of course, disadvantage, maybe if Donald Trump was here, he could have put more pressure on the members against Russia, and this could have helped in ending the Ukraine war. So there's sort of give and takes. But like I said, whether he's here or not, definitely the declaration can still go ahead.
Okay, well, that's a good news for now. But I do have to ask you, Professor Song, do you think the summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping played any role in, in achieving or pursuing common goals that would lead to the declaration, and Gyeongju Declaration specifically?
Definitely, I don't think so, because this is just a truce. There are three different levels of some stoppage pause, the temporary pause of the conflict between two belligerent or counterparts is like a truce and ceasefire and armistice. Now, between North and South Korea, we have armistice. Ceasefire is a little less formal, but truce is really temporary. The reason why Xi Jinping and Trump has agreed each other to have this kind of truce and reprieve for 1 year, the reason is because otherwise Trump would lose some kind of the midterm election next year, And also, he is quite afraid of some blocking of the soybean export to China. Then actually Argentina has taken advantage of the situation. And also, China is now they have some problem is investment-led economic growth is actually blocked. So they would like to emphasize the consumption-led economic growth. To that regard, then they would like to stabilize the situation. So that's why they end up with a truce. And then even the fentanyl, some kind of medicine-related, the fentanyl is allowed to be imported to the United States. In return, for example, China has allowed the U.S. to transfer or take the ownership of TikTok video company, video player company. So to that regard, there is some kind of some give and back, each other, and they agree under the water, and so it's ongoing. But they would like to take advantage of this situation to reduce the capability of their rivals' leverage, which means Trump will make efforts to purchase and to guarantee the available rare earth material from Southeast Asia countries. That's why he had paid a visit to Southeast Asia. So, and Australia is going to be a good resource to rare earth material. Then on the other hand, then China they would make friends, and they would like to expand their own way, some free trade promotion among the countries, and then to lead the Chinese economic growth with the consumption within the domestic and also some other countries other than U.S. So
definitely. Well, Professor Miller, I'd like to end with you with this one last question. This APEC 2025 Korea is one of many APEC events that we will have, in the near future, and also for our future generations. How do you expect the role of APEC to change in the future?
I don't see it changing substantially.
Okay.
So APEC's role is to focus on economic cooperation. So maybe there'll be a bit of a shift away from the traditional sort of tariffs, non-tariff barriers, quotas. And like we said earlier, we're moving into this period now where AI, the digital economy, is becoming much more prominent. So I think sort of the keywords in the future for APEC will be digital economy, sustainability, and inclusivity. I think those will be sort of the key areas going forward.
All right, Professor Miller, thank you so much for joining us again tonight. We appreciate
it. My pleasure.
it.
Thank you very much.
And as always, Professor Song, thank you so much for your insight and your time. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
존경하는 APEC 회원과 초청국 경제 지도자 여러분, 함께해 주신 귀빈 여러분, 역사와 문화가 살아 숨쉬는 천년 신라 왕국의 고도 경주에 오신 것을 다시 한번 환영합니다.
Leaders of APEC member economies and our guest of honor, distinguished guests with us tonight, I welcome you once again to Gyeongju, the ancient capital of 1,000 years, where you can feel and breathe in the history and culture of the Shilla Kingdom.
신라라는 국호에는 나날이 새롭게 사방을 아우른다는 뜻이 담겨 있습니다.
The name of this ancient kingdom, Shilla, means to continuously renew engagement with all corners of the world.
대한민국이 어려움을 딛고 나날이 새롭게 일어서 세계 만방의 국제사회 복귀를 알린 2025년, APEC 경제 지도자분들을 이곳 신라에서 만나 뵈니 참으로 감회가 새롭습니다.
In 2025, when the Republic of Korea has announced to the world its return to the international stage after overcoming challenges and making continuously renewed efforts to rise up again, it is all the more meaningful to meet the economic leaders of APEC here in the heart of the Shilla Kingdom.
이곳 경주는 전통과 현대가 어우러져 공존하는 조화의 도시입니다. 금관, 첨성대 같은 전통의 상징이 굳건히 경주를 지키고 있고 인근 경북 지역에는 철강, 조선업 등 현대 산업의 동력이 지역 경제를 책임지고 있습니다.
Gyeongju is a city of harmony where tradition and modernity blend and coexist, while symbols of tradition such as the Gold Crown and Cheomseongdae Observatory persevere in Gyeongju. Steelworks and shipyards, the engines of modern industry, are leading the local economy in the surrounding regions.
전임 의장국들이 쌓아 올린 APEC의 전통적 유산을 계승하면서 새로운 경제적 도전에 역동적으로 대응하겠다는 대한민국의 의지를 상징적으로 보여주는 곳이 바로 이곳 경주입니다.
I assure you of Korea's unwavering will to carry on the legacy of APEC built up by previous chairs and also to dynamically respond to new economic challenges. There is no better venue than Gyeongju to symbolically demonstrate this.
경주는 예로부터 다양한 문화와 상품의 교차로로서 세계와의 소통 속에서 고유한 문화를 꽃피워 왔습니다.
Since ancient times, Gyeongju has been a crossroads of various cultures and commodities, and this city has nurtured a unique culture through interaction with the world.
서로 다른 문화에 대한 존중을 바탕으로 공동의 번영을 만들어 가야 할 APEC의 미래 비전에도 이곳 경주의 정신이 시사하는 바가 크다고 생각됩니다.
I believe the spirit of Gyeongju has significant implications for the future vision of APEC, which is to create common prosperity on the basis of mutual respect for different cultures.
또한 경주의 풍부한 역사 유산과 이를 활용한 문화 산업은 올해 APEC이 성장 엔진으로 주목한 문화 창조 산업의 가능성을 보여주는 좋은 표본이자 귀감이 될 것입니다.
Furthermore, the abundant historic heritage of Gyeongju and the cultural industry that builds on this heritage is a perfect example and model of the possibilities of a creative cultural industry, which was discussed as a driver for growth in this year's APEC meetings.
고대 신라 왕국에는 만파식적이라는 피리가 있었다고 전해집니다. 세상의 모든 분열과 파란을 잠재우고 평안을 가져온다라는 뜻으로 왕실에서 나라에 근심이 있을 때마다 불었다고 합니다.
They say there was a legendary fiddle in the ancient kingdom of Shilla called 만파식적. The name means to calm down all conflict and turmoil and bring peace. This fiddle was played in the court whenever there was trouble in the kingdom.
천년의 세월을 넘어 이곳 경주에서 APEC 회원들의 목소리가 한데 어우러지며 만파식적의 선율로 거듭나게 될 것입니다. 그 아름다운 화음이 아태 지역에 평화와 안정 그리고 새로운 번영을 안겨줄 것으로 확신합니다.
Over a millennium has passed, and here in Gyeongju, the voices of APEC leaders are blending together in harmony once again to be reborn as the tunes of the 만파식적. I am without doubt that this beautiful harmony will bring about peace and stability and renewed prosperity to the Asia-Pacific region.
천년 고도의 정기를 이어받아 APEC의 협력과 성공 그리고 우리 공동의 미래를 위해 건배를 제의하겠습니다.
In inheriting the spirit of this ancient capital, I would like to propose a toast to cooperation in and success of APEC, as well as our common future.
잔을 들어주시기 바랍니다.
Please raise your glasses.
건배!
Cheers.
So another highlight of global events like APEC is definitely the main dinner meal served to global leaders. And at this year's edition, Korean-American star chef Edward Lee took the lead, making it even more special. Our culture correspondent Park Gon-woo delivers the taste from Gyeongju.
400 guests fascinated by an authentic Korean-style meal served during the Economics Leaders Gala Dinner on Friday. Featuring Gyeongju specialties such as premium beef or galbichim or braised short ribs, and local greens for bibimbap, mixed rice with soy sauce and sesame oil, along with side dishes of tofu and white kimchi, were only some of the highlights. Behind all of this is Korean-American star chef Edward Lee, the head chef of the Gala Dinner, who was also the guest chef for the 2023 Korea-US Summit. Since kimchi cuisine went viral worldwide after the dinner during the 2005 edition of APEC in Busan, many are wondering what the next kimchi may be, and E answers.
I can't pick one favorite, but I hope the guests come away with a sense of history and a sense of like the whole landscape of Korean cuisine, and we really want to feature special ingredients, you know, like we're featuring gam't, persimmon, pine nuts, you know, these to me are really symbolic.
A fusion of Western style combining traditional doenjang paste and rice cake with caramel made the dinner even more unique. That was even served in the mother-of-pearl box so the guests could take home a lasting memory. Yi stressed his goal was to introduce traditional Korean food in a modern, innovative way.
There's a beautiful history of Korean food that I don't want to change. There's another part of Korean food that's really innovative. I wanted to show how Korean ingredients can adapt and be innovative and really capture a global audience. People will go away and remember Korean cuisine as something that is just really, you know, layered and subtle and delicate.
The paired dinner drinks have also drawn attention. One standout was the toast drink, Horangi Yuzu Korean rice wine, that won first place in the Agriculture Ministry's competition for toast drinks last September. As the dinner drinks chosen back in 2005, including Bokbunjaju, Korean blackberry wine, saw explosive growth afterward, even leading to export deals, expectations are high once again for this year's selection. And as the meal and paired drinks were showcased to a wide range of people, including leaders of APEC members, K-Food's global momentum seems to show no signs of slowing down. Park Geon-eun, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Also on Friday, the South Korean leader has also made time to meet with global economic chiefs and from a private sector here in Gyeongju to promote Seoul as an attractive investment destination. Our Park Hyo-bin has the details.
From economic diplomacy to discussions on global innovation, President Lee Jae-myung's schedule was packed with back-to-back meetings with key global figures on Friday. The discussion centered on South Korea's economic outlook and global cooperation in artificial intelligence. President Lee met with IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva and sought her advice on the outlook for both the South Korean and global economies. In response, she said Korea has become a model for other nations, emphasizing the importance of continuous structural reforms and international cooperation.
We admire the achievements of Korea, and even more so your plans for the future to provide an impetus for rapid expansion of innovation as a driver of economic growth and to lift up the potential growth of the country.
Artificial intelligence was another key focus. President Lee, joined by top-class business leaders including Samsung Electronics Executive Chairman Lee Jae-yong, SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won, and Hyundai Motor Group Chairman Jung Hee-sun, met with the head of Nvidia, Jensen Huang, to discuss ways to advance innovation across South Korea's AI infrastructure and ecosystem.
대표께서 대한민국의 인공지능 시대를 가장 먼저 열어가는 그야말로 시험지 같은 공간으로 테스트 베드로 만들어도 결코 실패하지 않고 크게 성공할 것이다 확신합니다.
Korea can be one of the world's major AI hubs. My friends and I have many announcements to make together for us to work together to help advance AI here in Korea. In every industry, from automotive to manufacturing to chip fabs, all the way to consumer electronics.
Nvidia also pledged to supply about 260,000 high-performance GPUs to the South Korean government and four major companies, namely Samsung, Hyundai Motor, SK, and Naver by 2030. The deal is valued at up to 14 trillion won, or about $10 billion, marking a significant step in the country's AI ambitions. Earlier in talks with ABAC, President Lee reaffirmed his pledge to build a practical, market-oriented government, highlighting South Korea's potential as a promising investment destination for firms.
우리 한국 경제는 성장과 도약을 이뤄낼 것입니다. 대한민국은 더욱 매력적인 투자처로 거듭나게 될 것이라고 확신합니다.
At the heart of APEC 2025 Korea, the message from South Korea was clear. Partnership and innovation are key to the future. Park Hyubin, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
And APEC CEO Summit Korea concludes its 4-day run today with discussions on energy transition in the AI era and Nvidia CEO's special speech on AI vision. Our correspondent Moon Ji-young tells us more.
The last day of the APEC CEO Summit in Korea was especially highlighted by a special speech by Nvidia CEO Huang. Huang emphasized that AI will profoundly impact every industry and underscored the critical importance of building robust AI infrastructure. He also added that the AI era offers immense opportunities for Korea.
For Korea, this is an extraordinary opportunity because in very few countries in the world do you have three fundamental, essential, necessary qualities in order to succeed. The first is you need software. Software expertise is one of those skills that Korea has abundance of. Deep technical and science capability, and third, manufacturing capability.
He also announced Nvidia's plan to deploy 250,000 more GPUs in South Korea, partnering with local tech giants such as Samsung Electronics, SK Group, Hyundai, and Naver. This initiative aims to establish Korea as one of the world's largest AI infrastructure hubs. Global energy giants gathered to discuss the growing energy demand in the AI era, another key agenda item, and the crucial role of next-generation nuclear power. The IAEA stressed that nuclear power must play a key role, which is driven by AI data centers and digital transformation. Westinghouse reaffirmed its plans to further cooperate with Korea.
On behalf of Westinghouse, I would like to reaffirm Westinghouse are fully committed to support our partner in Korea and Team Korea and to have a more success in the future.
Westinghouse's partnership with Korea has continuously evolved. They've worked together to deliver the APR 1400 nuclear reactor developed by Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power in the UAE, and similar efforts are now underway in the Czech Republic. TerraPower highlighted its strong collaboration with Korean firms, saying that they are huge investors and partners, including HD, Hyundai, and SK Group.
Chairman Che at SK, I think, really had shared the same vision as Bill Gates for the future of advanced nuclear energy, and they've been a great investor.
In another session, SK Group stressed the pivotal role natural gas and LNG are poised to play in the AI era, highlighting the need for international cooperation to ensure its stable supply. These comprehensive discussions underscore that the future of AI critically hinges on both groundbreaking technological innovation and sustainable energy solutions. This year's summit saw a strong exchange of AI and cutting-edge technologies, solidifying Korea's role as a key player in global economic cooperation. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Now, among global ambitions dominated by artificial intelligence, South Korea may be at the forefront to spearhead and win in the heated AI race. Now, this is according to a global AI leader that our Park Jun-an spoke to here in Gyeongju. Take a listen.
With global business leaders gathering here at the APEC CEO Summit Korea 2025 in Gyeongju to discuss the future of the world economy going forward, artificial intelligence, or AI, was one of the key phrases discussed by speakers. And in light of this year's CEO Summit had Deloitte as its exclusive knowledge partner, with its global AI leader Nitin Mittal telling Arirang News that South Korea has the potential to become a leader in AI. But to do this, the country must not only develop its own AI capabilities such as sovereign AI and frontier models, but also focus on exporting its technology, talent, and digital services to the global ecosystem.
It has a lot of natural advantages. it has a technological base already in the country. It has great companies who invest in R&D and have been the titans and the anchor of the economy. So instead of it being Korea for Korea, could it be Korea for the world? Korea for APAC? Because leadership is going to come from not only having your innate capabilities within your jurisdiction, but also actually democratizing it for the benefit of others. That democratization for the benefit of others, making it available to allies, making it available to partners, making it available to the ecosystem is what I would kind of put out there as perhaps a national aspiration that would ultimately lead in regional leadership.
Mittal also touched upon South Korea's sovereign AI model, which serves as a crucial pillar of President Lee Jae-myung's broader pledge to invest 100 trillion Korean won, about $70 billion in advancing the nation's AI ecosystem and building a system accessible to all Koreans during his term.
There has to be the means of having some kind of a national AI infrastructure so that you're not just 100% reliant on others. It also means having a focus on R&D to have your frontier models, not for the purposes of actually kind of having something that is competitive to what is out there, but for the sheer need for cultural preservation. If all models, or predominantly all of them, are, let's say, in the English language, how does your language, your heritage, and your culture actually get codified in these models and preserved? That is part of sovereignty too. So sovereignty by design, wherein you have a focus around your preservation and your basically kind of dissemination of culture, heritage, language, etc.
Moving forward, he also said people should use AI as a buddy, not something they should fear. As such, if AI's wide adoption is inevitable, we should be familiar with how to use AI in our daily lives.
Are we really losing a job to an AI system, or are we actually being competitively pressured by a co-worker or colleague who's using AI? Trepidation is okay because it kind of keeps us alert, but the real basically kind of focus needs to be upskilling ourselves, adapting, learning, being curious, and making AI our buddy, not something that we fear.
As the exclusive knowledge partner of this year's APEC CEO Summit, Deloitte says its goal is to both contribute to and learn from the discussions, fostering greater collaboration and shared growth across the Asia-Pacific region. Park Jun-han, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Meanwhile, First Lady Kim Hea Kyung hosted a special program on Friday for the spouses of 6 APEC economic leaders at Bulguksa Temple, one of South Korea's most renowned UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The event welcomed the spouses of the leaders or representatives from Canada, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Chinese Taipei, and Thailand, offering them a glimpse into traditional Korean culture, including a cultural session led by monks and a traditional tea ceremony. Kim Hea also gifted traditional lucky pouches known as bokjumani in Korean, inspired by the recent animated film K-pop Demon Hunters with a hand warmer. The official group photo took place in front of the Cheonggyo and Baegungo bridges. And that wraps up our coverage of the first full day of APEC 2025 Korea here in Gyeongju. But we will be on the ground here in the city until tomorrow with the latest on this year's APEC. We'll connect with our Seoul studio tomorrow, Sunny, at 10 a.m. Korea Standard Time. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Tavi, thank you. And a big thank you to our team there in Gyeongju, working around the clock to bring us the latest APEC-related news. And here in Seoul Thursday evening, the heads of Nvidia, Samsung Electronics and Hyundai Motor Group met for talks over fried chicken and beer. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Leaders of Nvidia, Samsung, and Hyundai Motor gathered in Seoul on Thursday to discuss future cooperation in artificial intelligence. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang met with Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Lee Sun-jung and Samsung Electronics Chair Lee Jae-yong at a fried chicken restaurant in southern Seoul, where the three shared beer and conversation. Huang recalled first coming to Korea in 1996 after receiving a letter from the late Samsung chairman Lee Gun-hee, who asked for help in connecting the country through high-speed internet. Huang also presented gifts to Chung and Lee with a message reading "To our partnership and the future of the world." He added that Nvidia has been in talks with Samsung on high-bandwidth memory technology, with further discussions planned. Huang arrived in South Korea earlier in the day to attend the APEC CEO Summit and meet both Korean and global business leaders. It marks his first visit to Korea since 2010. He also attended an event celebrating the 25th anniversary of Nvidia's GeForce graphics processors. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, news of a future fleet of South Korean nuclear-powered submarines has been making Japanese headlines, with the media there describing the development as Seoul's move to strengthen national defense. Now, during talks this past Wednesday in Gyeongju, U.S. President Donald Trump shared support for President Lee Jae-myung's calls for such vessels, which the latter claimed were crucial for Seoul to take on the role of a capable defense partner for the U.S. in the Indo-Pacific. Japan's Sankei Shimbun warned this latest development may alarm China, while the Mainichi Shimbun assessed the move as the South Korean government's attempt to reassure its public amid North Korea's nuclear advancements. Yomiuri Shimbun, for its part, forecasts that South Korea is likely to move forward carefully to avoid raising regional concerns, given the interest in next-generation submarines in Japan as well. In other news, the Trump administration's nominee for U.S. Strategic Command has called for the modernization of Washington's nuclear weapons strategy to counter potential threats. Our Hye Kyung reports.
U.S. Strategic Command nominee Vice Admiral Richard Quarles has warned that the nuclear buildup by Russia, China, and North Korea poses a credible threat to the United States and its allies. Speaking at a Senate committee hearing on Thursday, Quarles said all three nations are expanding and modernizing their nuclear forces, from intercontinental ballistic missiles to new submarine-launched weapons and strategic bombers. He stressed that to counter these threats, the U.S. must also sustain and modernize its own nuclear arsenal, including its command, control, and communications network, known as NC3. Quarles said Washington is reviewing its force posture and strategy to cope with an increasingly complex security environment, emphasizing that nuclear modernization is key to maintaining credible deterrence. On China in particular, he noted Beijing's ambitious expansion and diversification of its nuclear forces, saying it underscores the need for a more flexible U.S. deterrent. He also criticized China's refusal to join arms control talks, calling it destabilizing for global security, even as President Donald Trump continues to urge dialogue to reduce the risk of nuclear conflict. His remarks came a day after President Trump announced that he'd ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear testing, saying Russia and China could reach nuclear parity with the U.S. within 5 years. If carried out, it would mark America's first nuclear test in 33 years, a move that could spark a renewed arms race among the world's major powers. Hye Kyung, Arirang News.
Back on the local front, the government's online administrative services have been restored to over 90% following the fire at the State Data Center back in September. The Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters says all 40 Grade 1 services, those considered most essential, are now back online. During a meeting of related officials on this Friday, Interior Minister Yoon Ho-jung said that the government will complete the restoration by the end of November.
The very last day of October saw wide daily temperature gaps across the country. It started chilly this morning with a temperature of 6.1 degrees Celsius in Gyeongju, where world leaders have gathered for the APEC leaders meeting. As the daily temperature rose to nearly 20 degrees, the daily temperature difference from the morning widened by more than 10 degrees. Temperature swings will continue for the time being. Overnight, rain will begin in the Seoul metropolitan area, the northern parts of Gangwon-do province, the west coast of Chungcheongnam-do province. It will expand to the rest of the central areas, the Jeollado provinces, Gangwon-do province, and Jeju Island. Tomorrow morning, most areas will start off cool at 10 to 12 degrees. Daytime temperatures will move up to 16 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, 20 degrees in Busan and Jeju. The early winter cold will make a return on Monday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That ends our evening newscast for this Friday, October 31st. From all of us at the Newscenter here in Seoul, thank you for watching.